Well, net neutrality got back in the news recently. Now, from what I see, not a lot of sources have talked about the shit, but if they have, it's been like just a small situation, but it's a big deal. Now, ReviewTechUSA, Rich over there, talked about it. Others, I'm sure, have talked about it. And I'm kind of surprised Angry Joe hasn't touched upon this just yet, because I know he was opponent or opposed to the situation. I know I haven't heard of Cinemassacre. James Rolfe has talked about it, or Deluxe-Man, or Deluxe-Man's wrestling news or reviews, as it's called. I'm surprised that Jeff Shego of OTR Central hasn't talked about it. Doug Walker, Lewis Lovehog, Linkara. But this is a big deal, because I know a lot of people point out that when net neutrality was repealed, basically put on death's door, if you will, to be extinguished, everybody was upset, they complained, they fought, petitions were made and sent out, stuff like that. You know, everything was done to basically try to prevent net neutrality from leaving. Even states like the one I live in, California, did what they can, or did what they could, to keep net neutrality around. You know, when Brown was in office as the governor, I think that's who it was, I think he did a little bit, but not much. It was mostly the state senate and all that started to get the ball rolling because of what they understood. And basically the overall situation was the plan to repeal net neutrality was not a good one. It was not something that a lot of people were looking at as being something good, even though a lot of people pointed out, and even still point out to this day, that after it's all said and done, that we wouldn't say much about it. And they were right. For a while we didn't say anything about it because of the fact that we kept fighting it. People kept fighting it, you know, and from all different fronts. They would put in petitions, they would go to court. A lot of lawyers, big shots if you would, a lot of lawyers, big shots if you would get involved, that didn't like the idea that net neutrality was going to be, you know, done with and put on the shelf indefinitely. Well, basically, basically in between the time, I should say, that the repeal happened and even now, there have been a lot of moments happening that have been positives and some negatives, but mostly positives. The positives being that even the Supreme Courts would get involved. And you'd have appeals courts, you have this, you have that. You have state courts. And mostly the big news out of all that was you started to have each individual states out there start to come up with their own ideas, their own laws, start to work out the kinks and everything to come up with their own laws that would protect and keep net neutrality alive and well in their region, in their state. Well, basically the news that Rich talked about on ReviewTechUSA and other people have been pointing out is this. And I even found out about it when I turned on my phone, and one of the first things I saw was the news about it. An appeals court, the appeals court, I think the major one, the overall appeals court, basically came out and basically said, FCC, you can't really prevent net neutrality from dying. You can't stop states, if you will, from, you know, wanting to make their own laws to protect net neutrality. You can't do this, you can't do that. Because if you do, you're preventing this, you're preventing that. In other words, the FCC and Ajit Pai were called out for a lot of their shortcomings and a lot of things that they overlooked in the process of trying to repeal net neutrality. Now, even though this is looked at as a major win for, everybody that supported net neutrality, that's been fighting to keep it alive and all that, there are some people that still look at it as, yeah, it's a victory, but not for everybody, because some people are convinced that because of where they live, statewise, their state might be a little bit more reluctant to want to support net neutrality because they don't see no problem with it being gone. But it was pointed out in this article, even Rich mentioned it, there are many states so far that are in the process or in the process of coming up with a bill or on the verge of passing a bill that would protect net neutrality, that would keep it alive and well. Like I said, that includes the state I live in here, California. So in the end, basically, and again, you have to look this up, just look up net neutrality, look up recent news, appeals court, and all that on Google, and basically it will state that, well, even though they repealed net neutrality about over a year ago, that essentially, even though they thought they won, they got what they wanted. The corporations that wanted net neutrality gone thought they got what they wanted. Yeah, that victory may have been a year-long victory with a few defeats here and there, a few small defeats here and there, where net neutrality was still kept alive by, I would say, a thread. Overall, in the end, all that victory was just a calm before the storm that would come down upon them. And that storm basically being a court that would take all the findings that all these other groups, support groups and corporations, if you will. Like I said, there are all these support groups and all these corporations, if you will, pieced together, and they basically, in this appeals court was like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that's being pointed out to us right here, yeah, it doesn't add up. It's like, I mean, I'll be honest, the judge probably, the people at the court, the judge, if you will, probably said, yeah, the FCC was in the right to do it, but majoritarily they're in the wrong because they didn't take into account certain things that might be affected by this decision. Also, they basically pointed out that the FCC could come out and say, yeah, the states can't make their own laws, this prevents them from doing it. The appeals court obviously took all the findings that was given to them and all that, and basically said, yeah, you're wrong in that, because they have their own governments, and they could do what they want. They could make any decision they want, and if they want to keep net neutrality alive in their states, in their states for their citizens, then they have the right to do so. So overall, guys, net neutrality is pretty much back, if you will, pretty much as of right now, unless something does come up that could change things. Net neutrality is on the comeback. It's on the comeback, not just for states, but for the entire country. And it's all because of this appeals court that pointed out a lot of the mistakes, or a lot of the situations, or a lot of the issues. Basically the appeals court just looked at the overall structure and said, yeah, you have that. Yeah, Achipa, you were in the right to make this happen, but you were also majorly in the wrong, because there are certain areas involved that would be greatly affected, and that's not right. That's not right. So unless something else comes out, which I would not be surprised that some of these corporations and the people representing them will try to find to bring out to try to oppose this. Right now, this little moment here, this moment in time, shows that net neutrality is on the comeback. It's on the comeback. And, it's like I said before when I talked about this, I don't think we have much to worry about. I think even Joe Vargas, Angry Joe, has said it, that, yeah, we don't have much to worry about because of the fact that we knew somehow, some way that that somehow, some way, net neutrality would still be kept alive and well. I mean, I pointed out the fact that the reason we had not seen much of a shift, even though I've come out and said that you can notice maybe a tiny bit of slowness, a little bit of slowness. Not saying that's because of the repeal of net neutrality, but you can notice just a tiny bit of slowness. I mean, a big example is Verizon blocking the firefighters' communications while they were trying to save people's lives and prevent a fire from getting out of control. But, long story short, besides that, when it comes to the consumers as well, you can notice a little bit of a slowdown, no matter who your provider was. No matter who your provider was, and even though you can notice that, what I said, and a lot of people, other people have mentioned this, the reason we wouldn't see much of a change just yet is because the FCC and the corporations, those cable corporations, those internet providers, knew people would be keeping an eagle eye out to see if they would try to pull anything. And now this here kind of prevents that from happening. So in other words, what that also does is it prevents all the cable companies, who are also internet providers, from trying to pull any crap of any kind, and they have to basically abide by the state laws that the company is, that the company is a part of, or the company provides internet and all that as well. So yeah, in the end, net neutrality seems to be on the comeback. This is a huge win, but the thing is, it's not a finale win. It's not a final win. It's not like, net neutrality is here to stay, period. No, done, it's over with. It's not that way, but it's still a major win that in the end is going to basically make sure net neutrality stays around for the long run, no matter where you are. But let me know what you guys all think down below. I got to get back into work, but let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll talk to you all later. Sorry if I stumble with my words, kind of, fidgeted with them. I'm out in public doing this, and kids just got out of school from the Tracy area through the New Jerusalem public schools or school district, and you never know. So, but let me know what you guys all think down below. Comment if you like, and I'm out.